to the Elite Form Podcast, episode number 10. Willie Jones. Willie is an associate strength conditioning coach at the University of Illinois under Lou Hernandez. Willie also was on staff at Nebraska when Elite Form was first doing a lot of its R&D. So we go back a good ways with Willie. And so we're getting into some interesting conversation in terms of just looking back, a little bit of nostalgia about Elite Form starting out, what it was like to have technology people in the weight room and trying to figure out how to communicate with each other, as well as just what he's up to today and how they're trying to basically really establish something at the University of Illinois. So without further ado, Willie Jones.
Let's go.
So who do you typically, like, you're going to play something in the car, drive in,
yeah.
Who are we listening to?
Back in the day, when I was in, college, it was Biggie Smalls, Tupac. I listened to a lot of Nas, Puff Daddy growing up. Artists like that. I tend to not get into the hip hop right now just because the beats are great, but I think the content's not great, some of it. I tend to be more of a lyricist, so I do like J. Cole, I do like Jay-Z. I'm a big Jay-Z fan. But some of the new age stuff that the kids are listening to these days, it's not me. That's not what I get into. So, but I'm always kind of, into some different stuff that, that guys that's kind of out there, right? Like guys that you might not have heard of, back in the day. So that's kind of what I like to do. I used to listen to a lot of mixtapes. Me and my brother, we were freestylers and try to. I don't think anymore. Playlist, but we used to go on like YouTube and like mixtapes all the time and just listen to there was one artist and the name's blanking on me now, but he ended up getting killed, but he was like an East Coast artist and he was like a mixtape guy, right? And like you look at Eminem, that's kind of how we got started doing freestyles and mixtapes. So like that's kind of what I always drew myself towards. But yeah. I suppose now that I have a family, I don't listen to a ton of hip hop anymore as much as I used to. I'm more of a talk radio. I'm more of a talk radio guy now when I drive into work. Yeah, typically ESPN radio, Golic and Wingo in the morning. That's kind of what I tend. I got an older car, so I don't have Bluetooth capabilities, so we don't do podcasts in the cars, but I do enjoy listening to podcasts. Even when I work out, I rarely do I listen to music anymore. It's more like podcasts that I listen to, Jocko and, different, the Elite Form podcast, now that I'm gonna throw it into my, my repertoire. So but that's kind of what I go at. That's great. So my oldest is 16, and then we have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then about to be 2 baby girls. So I got 3 boys and a girl. So busy. Yeah, my wife's busy. She stays at home with them, but I,
The 16-year-old has not been crafted into being a babysitter quite yet?
Not quite yet. And yeah, he lives in South Dakota, unfortunately, so he's not with us. But he lives with his mom there, and then my wife and I together have 3 kids. So yeah, but when he is with us, he actually went with us to the bowl game. We went to the bowl game this year, and we had him, do a little daddy duty there, a little daddy daycare. So he was cool. At first, he was a little reluctant because he's like, well, it's my vacation too. But it's like, hey, dude, like you're here because of us, so let's just enjoy the time. So he was good. But yeah, it was, we're busy. My wife's really busy. God bless her. She's been awesome. But, yeah, man, it's, it is. You walk in the door, you're a rock star. Shout out to the wives all the time, man. Yep. Especially, in working, non-working wives, it doesn't matter if they're at home or with the kids or if they're working a job, it's still hard work for them all. So, my wife is, she's a godsend for me. So that's been great.
So remind me, how long have you been at the University of Illinois?
Yeah, so this is going to be my 4th year. It'll be 4 years in April when I officially started. About to be my 5th football season coming up next year. So it's crazy how fast it goes. But it's been a good 4 years. I've seen this thing kind of be, we came here at a certain level and then we got it to, we went to a bowl game. So that's been probably something, that I needed for my career because I didn't have that in Nebraska. I kind of went there and it was kind of already established when I got there. I got their second year Bo's tenure when I got there in 2009. And they just came off like an 8 or 9 win season, beat Clemson, I believe, in the Gator Bowl. And then I got there like in the summertime and the thing was just they were kind of getting their culture rolling. Right. So they were still building it, but it it kind of already been established from the year before. So coming here where it was a new staff, we had to rebuild this thing from the ground up, and just to see where it's been and now where it's gone, it's been awesome and rewarding. And credit to the staff, credit to these kids who just have, some of these kids have had 3 head coaches, in their tenure here. So just because of all the stuff they had, they were recruited by Beckman, and he was fired right before the season started, like in 2000 and, I believe it was 15. And then they had Bill Cubitt as their interim. And then he got fired in February when the new AD came in, and then hired Lovey in March of 16. So it's just been, some of those guys have been through the ringer. So these kids are really resilient, and they've been persevered through all this. And now we're kind of trying to put our handprint on it a little bit more now with them. So, yeah, it's been awesome though. New room, brand new facility, which was it's been awesome, man. I love the new room. The weight room itself is just phenomenal. Like the size of it, the length of it. We got 2 more racks in there. With that came new equipment that we could use. New bars, new toys that we could just use. And so that's been fun. And then the facility itself is just, to me, one of the best in the country. Coming from where we came from in the old facility, which was nice, but it just was dated. And this thing is just, this is the Taj Mahal. That's what Coach Schmidt calls it all the time. He calls it the Taj Mahal of facilities. So much needed for recruiting, and just our players, and especially for the kids that have gone through it, now they're here in the room. So try to reaping some of the benefits of, of some of that hard work. So now we just got to, keep building off that, keep winning.
Makes total sense.
Yep. So it's awesome.
I feel like it's helping in all the ways a good room should.
Absolutely, man. We have, like I said, 2 more racks than we had in the other facility, more space, turf area in here. So that allows us to do some things in the weight room that we couldn't do before. Time, it's connected right to our indoor, so we can save time there. You save probably 5 to 10 minutes of just transition time, which is huge for us when you already don't have time, based on what you have. So, it was needed. It's been utilized the way we envisioned it, and now we just got to keep getting better out of it.
For sure. So for folks who don't know, like, how do you see your role within the staff?
Sure. So I'm the associate strength coach here, so I'm the top assistant. I think my role is pretty important. Coach Lou, the strength coach Lou Hernandez, entrusts in me a lot to do a lot of the programming, obviously through his guidance, but just kind of how the day-to-day operations run. Like I schedule the groups, I kind of start the group for the day. So I see my role as pretty important. I'm a pretty good bridge between him and the kids, so I talk to the kids quite a bit. So I have that one-on-one interaction, which that's the best part of my job, right? Just interacting with the kids every day, just trying to get them to, understand what our goals are and what we're trying to accomplish here, from week 1 to week 8. That's kind of what my role is. And then just, and just pushing them and trying to get them to be better every day. And that's kind of what I've always seen my role as, no matter where I've been and where I've been in the pecking order. But probably more so importantly now is that's what my job is. And then the rest of the coaches on staff, which we have a great staff, they're also supposed to do the same thing, and they are doing the same thing. So they're just kind of bringing everybody along, and we all work together really well. And we kind of have our set guys that we work with, but we all just get along. We're just going and we're working.
Gotcha.
And that's all it's about.
When you say you have your set guys that you work with,
yep.
Is that like particular position groups?
Yep.
How do you guys do that?
Yeah, so we break it up. Basically, I handle the O-line and D-line. Coach Cloward, Michael Cloward, he handles like the combo type guys, linebacker, tight end types. And then Coach Ferranto, he's more the developmental guy, young guys and guys that just need more development, more work, they need a different stimulus. And then Coach Whitlock is the skill guy. He works with all the DBs, wide receivers, those type of guys. And then, Coach Lou just oversees everything, make sure things run smoothly. So, yeah, that's kind of how we all break it up in the weight room. And then from there, each group has their own individualized things they do, but that's how we do it in the weight room right now. So, yeah.
So I kind of skipped a step.
Sure.
Obviously, I knew you were in Nebraska.
Yep.
Right. Something we would have got to know each other. But like, what was your initial path? Like, how did you become a strength coach?
Yeah.
How did you end up at?
You know, it's funny.
Link it up to me. Like,
Yeah. So I always like to tell the story. So like going through high school, I never knew what I was going to do. I knew I played sports, you know, track, football, basketball, though I did those sports. So obviously working out was a big part of that, especially through football. Football is my first love. It's just been something I've always done since I've been little. My dad played football. You know, we just grew up with a football in our hand. You know, he said he'd put me in front of the TV, and I just watched football when I was, 2, 3 years old. That was how he babysat me. So, I've always been drawn to easy, right? Yeah. I wish my kids now were that easy. Yeah. I didn't have any iPads or Kindles or iPhones to keep me occupied. So that's what he did. But, so I always did that, was always interested in football, and then training, the workout part of it kind of came through high school. But I had a buddy, his name was Derek Budick, who he was a little bit older than me, but he played football at where I grew up at in Yankton, South Dakota. And he always talked about he went to school to be a strength coach. I never really knew what it was, but after college, he went and got an internship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he came back and was talking about how he was like working out with like Brad Johnson at the time, the old school quarterback, Mike Allstott, like guys like that. When he told me that, and that he had a chance to do those things, I knew right then and there I was going to be a strength coach.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And so I call it the Derek Budick story. So that's he's the one that kind of got me started. And then my high school coach, my D-line coach, or O-line coach, excuse me, he was the one that he did all the training and workouts. So him and I would talk shop all the time just about working out and stuff.
Were you already sort of into the lifting side of being a football player, and then
yes,
Derek's story happened?
Absolutely. So I was already a weightlifter. So I remember when I was like in 8th grade, like my parents we had this old like weight set downstairs. And like when I was going to be a freshman, it was talk that I was going to get moved up to the sophomore team. So I was like, well, I better start working out or something. So I remember I worked out Monday, Wednesday, Friday in my basement. And I had like those old plastic like plates. Yeah, they just all like they're awful, right? I would like hang clean, back squat, bench press, like RDL and barbell row. I don't know how I knew to do that. I just did it. And I would do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, that's what I would do the whole summer, try to get myself in shape. Okay, then when we got to high school, we would like Monday would be our leg day. We'd lift heavy legs. It was like leg everything, right? Like leg press, leg extension, squat, leg curls, RDLs, just blasting the legs. And then like day 2, I would do like, upper body. And then day 3 would do like legs again. Again, right? Heavy legs, leg blaster, see how much weight you could get on the leg press, right? And then Friday would be my like secondary upper body, like incline, stuff like that. So I did that all the way through high school and then got pretty strong doing that. And then through that time of, learning about strength conditioning and what I can actually make a career out of this, that's where that love came from. So I knew I wanted to be a strength coach, went to college, played football at South Dakota State University, the Jackrabbits. Was there from 02 to 07. In that time, we made the transition from Division II to Division I. So we weren't ever playoff eligible, basically the whole time there. Had a strength coach that was there for a couple of years, and a new guy came in who's still there today, Nate Moe. And I knew then I wasn't going to play in the NFL. I was going to go play. I was going to be a strength coach. That's what I wanted to do. So he ended up hiring me as a GA after I got done with my undergrad. Very got lucky because I interned for him first. I had to do an internship for my major, intern for him in the weight room. And I knew when I wanted to be in the weight room instead of go to class, I knew this is what I was supposed to do. Right. I knew I was supposed to be a strength coach. So that's what, I was helping out in the weight room and I was like, okay, I got a class at, 10 o'clock. I was like, I don't really want to go. I went, but I was like, this is what I knew I was supposed to be doing. So interned for him. And then he kind of just out of the blue offered me a graduate assistantship there, took that for 2 years. And then, towards the end of that, right, like it's like every GA, right, every grad school kid's like, okay, what am I going to do, right? Like you've been in school for 7 years, okay, you've been kind of just hanging out, right? Like you got a little responsibility, but you don't have, now you got to go get a big boy job. So I applied at a couple places and, I didn't have any experience, so like didn't get any bites. And it was actually So kind of how I ended up at Nebraska is actually a really cool story. So it was our spring break, my second year of grad school, and our football staff was going to Iowa to visit their coaches, just like a professional development visit. And the strength coach was like, "Hey, should we go?" And I didn't. It was my spring break. I was like, "I really don't want to go." He's like, "Well, why don't you just go with me? It'd be a good trip. We can talk to Coach Doyle." And then we had to go talk to like the basketball coach, strength coach at the time. So I went over there and, we went and visited Coach Doyle, and, the whole time I'm, writing stuff down, taking notes, just asking him questions. And he was, when I tell you he was phenomenal with us, I mean, he spent the whole day with us. He printed off anything we wanted. I mean, he basically gave us his whole program, and it was the coolest thing ever. And he was just such a great guy, nice guy. I just really opened my eyes to him taking time for us, right? Two guys from South Dakota State, that don't know, we're just there trying to get better, and I didn't know anything. I was a GA. I was, it was me, the head strength coach, and two GAs for 21 Sports South Dakota State. So I'm, as green as they come. I'm just trying to learn. And so, whether it was conducting myself well or whatever, I don't know. But about 2 weeks later, I get a call from James Dobson, who was actually the strength coach. Shout out to James, who was actually the obviously the head strength coach in Nebraska at the time. And he said, "Hey, I got your name from Chris Doyle." Said he was very impressed with you. We have a position coming open that's kind of a part-time paid internship type deal, 2-year temp position. But I'd like like you to come interview. And he goes, "Here's the deal. I can't pay for you. You got to do it on your own. But if you can come down here, or we can do a phone interview." I said, "No, Coach, I can come down there. I'm only about 4 hours away from you." So took a day, drove down, and when you go to some place and you just know it's just good. And that's how that whole entire day went. It was just good. They were very comfortable with the guys. And again, I thought I had this whole presentation prepared, strength conditioning stuff. And I didn't get asked one strength question all day. It was more like they were just trying to see what kind of guy I was, what kind of dude I was, if I fit in with their staff. It was just a good day. So whatever, left that day, felt pretty good about it. He's like, "There's 2 other guys that are interviewing, but they can't come on campus." So we'll see. About 2 weeks later, I get a call from James and got out for the position. Took it right away. Didn't have to think about it. So then I moved down to Lincoln, Nebraska, and that was was just like a part-time paid intern, but I knew I had a chance to go full-time. So eventually, basically after being there for about 4 months, they opened up the job, made it full-time. I got hired on full-time, and kind of the rest is history with that place. Obviously was there with Bo and his staff and Coach Dobson, and we did some great things there. Obviously coaches, they won a lot of football games. We had a good time, great staff to be a part of. And then they got let go in 2014. Mike Riley came in. I actually was kept on with that staff for a year. And then when this opportunity came about in 2016, I knew it was something professional I had to jump on, make that next step in my path to becoming, whatever my goals are. So I took the opportunity to come here, and that's where we are today. So that's kind of how my path, kind of a long winding road, but that's kind of how I am where I'm at today. So it was awesome. So it's been awesome. I've been lucky.
Loaded question, right?
Sure.
So how's the path going to continue?
I don't know. I want to be a head strength coach. That is a goal of mine. I know that for a fact. I've had a couple opportunities to interview like some smaller jobs, never been the right time to leave here. Try to work hard every day, keep my head down, and then hopefully an opportunity comes about.
Sure.
And I'm okay if it doesn't, because I know what type of coach I am. But hopefully someday it will, and I'll get a call and it will be good. And but that's my ultimate goal, is to be a head strength coach. That's professionally. But right now, every day, I try to be the best strength coach I can be wherever I'm at. So right now, I'm at the University of Illinois,
absolutely.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to give everything I can to these kids and to these, the staff, and that's what I'm doing. So
have you ever thought about like NFL versus college?
You know what? I haven't really.
Because the story,
sure.
David, what was his name?
the
No,
guy
Derek Budick.
Derek Booty.
Yeah.
So he actually did
Yeah,
you
he was
say
an-
intern at
Yeah,
the
he was an
like-
intern. Yeah, I mean, I think if that opportunity came along, it'd be hard to pass up. Right now, knowing what I know now, right, like I'm a little more versed in the profession, right. Like there's some major differences between that
For
level
sure.
and this
Yeah,
level.
that's why I brought it up.
You know, actually, one of my former bosses, actually, that was here, he is the head strength coach for the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So there's been some differences just talking to him about just college versus, NFL. So, but again, opportunities are opportunities. If they're good opportunities, I'm not going to pass them up.
Sure.
So,
No.
So, we'll see what happens. Right now I like college, but I mean, I'm not opposed to anything. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I always try to keep my options open.
Well, it only makes sense, right? I'm gonna try a little more.
Sure.
So I've probably told the story too many times. And I know we talked about it a little bit before we flipped the mics on, but
Sure.
yeah, it's just a way of toasting you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks
I love
for coming on.
Appreciate you.
You can just tell us what you think from there. But here you are, my friend.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's the John Coates official drink.
Lord. My goodness.
So you can lighten it up. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Avery
Okay.
somehow found that someone had a cocktail recipe with this stuff.
Wow.
And it's Apernol, a grapefruit radler, and a lemon. I'm sure the lemon is to take some of the bite out
I'm
of
sure
it.
it does. Yeah, that has a bite to it. That's for
So
sure.
next time you're in Chicago,
Yeah,
that's about the only place you can find it.
Wow, I'm gonna have to get up there. Yeah, 2.5 hours. I don't know. Oof. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's
That's interesting stuff.
it's something. But
No doubt, man.
I always feel responsible to finish the glass, and
Yeah, no.
and then
that's
maybe
gonna happen.
maybe that bottle can stay closed after.
Yeah, that bottle can stay closed. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, no. So yeah, man, that's kind of the path. That's kind of where I see myself going. But again, man, we're trying to do some great things here. It's been and the thing I will say, I've been so blessed, man. Like, to be at two places a combined 11 years. Like you look at coaches in this profession have to move around so much. And I've been so lucky. For one, I've never been let go, knock on wood. So to be able to leave on my own terms every time has been awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's not a lot of people.
I'm extremely lucky and blessed for that, right? And again, you as if you're in this profession long enough, right? At some point it's probably gonna happen, right?
Sure, I mean
it's gonna happen, right? It's gonna happen, but at the same time, it hasn't happened to me yet, and I've been so lucky, and for my family just to be able to be in one spot for so long, and to spend the time in Lincoln, Nebraska, which we've talked about earlier, is just one of my favorite places in the world. My wife and I loved it there. And that place is the support you get, from that place is awesome. That's hard to beat. And then you got here this place, we're trying to give ourselves an identity, and it just comes with so many differences because geographically we got so much stuff around us.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? You got Chicago, you got Indy, you got St. Louis, so you're close to a lot of big stuff. So, but when like this past year, when we beat Wisconsin and we beat Michigan State, just the outpouring of the people here have been so awesome. And people, it's like I think I was trick or treating one night with my kids, and the guy's like, "Hey, you're on TV. You're one of the strength coaches, aren't you?" And it's right, and like that hasn't happened here, since I've been here. So like, right, and not that's what I do it for, but it's
of course not.
But like.
It does say
just to see some recognition of like, hey, we are doing good things here. We're building this thing to where we need to go, and we're just trying to get better. And that's
it's just an example of a cultural, a kind of a football culture difference.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, yeah. And
back when you were at Nebraska, I'm gonna guess if you walked around Lincoln, someone's gonna be like, "Oh, hey,
all the time.
You're in staff,
I'm
right?
going to Hy-Vee. Like going to Hy-Vee after my wife sent me to get some milk. And it's like I can't get out there without being asked if I play football or I'm on this team. And it's like,
and to your point,
right?
And people will feel potentially a little sensitive to this. That is kind of all there is.
100%. Right. You look at, obviously Omaha, 45 minutes away, but yeah, I mean, it's just, there's not much going on. And,
But when we're talking about football in particular,
that's what it is.
Creighton doesn't have a team.
Right.
Like no one else. No
that
one
is
else
the team,
does.
right? That is the team.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And then if you're talking NFL, like people say, now people definitely say KC.
Absolutely.
But you've got some Pac fans. For sure. Avery's a Bronco fan. He's from Denver, so that's fair. Right. But there's nothing really homegrown.
No doubt.
Except the Huskers. Yeah. So
very true.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So were you then, you were on staff when we started doing our research and development?
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we've not talked about this before, just to throw it out there for everybody listening. Right. But so, and initially I wasn't a part of it. But so what was it like initially having a bunch of, software geeks, right? In the weight room, watching you guys lift.
Right.
Because not being a part of that, I have my own perspective coming in slightly later. But like, what was that like for you guys?
It was interesting because I think the biggest thing we had to like bridge between us and them was like our terminology and then how things actually work. Like they had their ideas of like, they kind of got the concepts of like what they wanted to do, but we had to really break it down for them and make it like, well, it's not going to really work like that. Like strength coaches are going to want this. They're going to want, it's got to be like this. And they're they're going to want to see it like this, And then it was like, well, what if we do this? And it's like, well, everybody might not see it the same way. Right. So we had to really, that was probably the first initial stages, with James and Rex and Riggs was a part of all that, that we had to really break down as like, what we really wanted to see on the screen. Okay. What we were trying to accomplish with the units, and then, try to help them also like make it marketable, cause like, and that was more your guys' deal, but like, we were kind of like, well, that's not really how it's going to work. So there was a lot of that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then once, they started to really understand where you're coming from, we understood where you guys are coming from. Cause there was some stuff in there that they would say, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
I'm not a computer science guy. I don't know any of that stuff. So, once we kind of got a good working relationship, which we had a really good working relationship, and it was to the point where it was simplified for both parties, it worked awesome. But I'll never forget the first day we used the units. I think every unit broke. Because we try to say, it's like, guys, you're going to have guys with 500 pounds of the bar. They're going to slam the weight in when they get done. Like, that needs to be to withstand all that.
Right.
And I remember the first day, it was like a spring ball lift, I think. And so we're not, we're moderate. And we, I don't remember how many units were. I feel there was just a couple. Yeah. But we, guys are lifting weights and all of them broke. And it's like, they're like, okay, well, that's what they were talking about, right? So to be kind of the first guys to kind of guinea pig the stuff and kind of to see how it worked and to kind of give that, I think they appreciated that from us. It's like, oh, okay, this is how we got to get better. So I'm sure that first day they went back to the drawing board and it was like a big extensive thing. But, at the end of the day, we're more than just meatheads, but at the end of the day, I'm a meathead, right? Like I like to I lift weights, right? I'm a weightlifter, I like to think I got a little bit more complexity to me than that, but I am in this for a reason.
Yeah, I hear coaches say that. And I cringe sometimes.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
I'm not just
I know you, like reasonably well. Like,
exactly.
We're not able to hang out every day, but I know you reasonably well.
Exactly.
So I would never call you a meathead.
Right, but at the end of the day, we all like to move some weight. We all like to lift heavy, right? And that's what we do. So, and I think
it's like leaning into a
cliche.
think
most strength coaches would agree with that. So, but just to be able to have that, and then from our standpoint of learning, kind of the other side of it, how it works for you guys was extremely interesting. And, now I'm kind of dating myself because it's like, seems like, it wasn't that long ago, but it was a long time ago.
It was a while ago.
And so
that, 9 years,
which is crazy to think that it was 9 years since that happened, but it's been awesome. Obviously the units are great. And, you guys, I think, worked out all the kinks that you had to work out for the most part, right?
There's always something.
Every day.
No, I remember, I don't think we've ever talked about this. So I got hired on after, the way it was described to me was we're tracking now.
Okay.
Right. And so,
yeah.
So basically some of the folks at Nebraska Global thought, okay, well, like Skip's got this weird set of experiences that apply to this. Like he was an athlete, started to go back to school for kinesiology, like knows business, blah, 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 blah. And so day one, I'm in a group with probably a lot of those same computer science developers, right, et cetera, that you dealt with.
Yep.
And you'd probably already seen those things break.
Yeah.
And one of them, super smart guy, just was outside of his sort of jurisdiction, goes, hey, is there a right way to do a squat? I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, what have I gotten myself into?
Well,
right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I can answer that point of order.
Right.
And so then it became like, all right, I've got some things to figure out with what exactly sort of we've got. How are we talking to people about it? Because kind of to your point about jargon, like I'd still joke to this day that I'm just the translator.
Right.
You know, like one of the things we're considering tracking next is like landmine movements.
Okay. Wow.
Right.
Nice.
So I can't just say landmine movement to a computer vision person.
What is that?
And have them know, right? So it's like sending a video, right? Those kinds of things.
Yep.
But yeah, I just heard some of the stories about like what they initially installed, and I'm not the smartest guy ever.
Sure.
But I kind of had I could have told you that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like an aluminum instead of something hardy.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Like basically we use the same metal as a rack now.
Right. Which,
like some small aluminum thing.
yeah, things.
It's probably going to vibrate for a while.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah. So.
And even with the stuff we are indeed with you guys, we continue to have to do things because of vibration.
Sure. Yep.
So like with Hangsty, Hulls, and the Eagles,
Yep.
like they're big boys when they rack it. Like we ended up putting like we call them dampening pads, but it's like these rubber mats that keep the vibration down.
I got you.
And there was one layer, and then it became two.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was still just a learning process. So
Absolutely, man.
nothing shakes apart now, but man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you load it up and go.
Yeah. I mean, right. Because, and like, it's not like, a guy's lifting weight and, he gets done with a set. Like, he's trying to get that thing off his back as fast as he can, right? Like, he's not trying to just keep it out. So he's trying to rack that thing, get away from the bar. And we told him those things. And again, you live, you learn. And it was, and again, after all that, and it was a great working relationship. And then we got to the point where we could use the things. We could really use them and use them effectively and use them for what, we were doing at the time there. And so that was, and again, the biggest thing was like the lack of hiccup. And there was no hiccups. There was like, okay, there was a couple times, things would happen, but for the most part, you guys got it down pretty good. And there was, if something was messed up, the kids really didn't know it, which is the most important thing when you're on the floor, right? Kids just got to keep rolling. Hey, just keep going.
There's always that idea of you got 45 minutes.
Right.
So
exactly. And
I know everyone took that to heart. Right.
Absolutely.
So,
that was I think that was probably the main thing that when we first started was like, hey, we don't have time. Like if we got 4 guys on a rack or 3 guys on a rack, we got to be able to toggle this thing quick. It can't take long. We got to go.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and that's where that's been great because you guys have gotten to the point where like there's really not a ton of time that in between. It's just, and you don't even really notice it. It's just kind of in the natural flow of things, which has been good. But yeah, I mean, those first few days, I'm sure, like, we're like, I told him, man. They told me they got to work, like it was
right. Oh, yeah.
It was like, but I'm sure it was more for you guys than anything, and that took some time before we even started using them fully, right? Like it was just like, hey, we're just tracking movements.
Well, and that's one of the tough things
when
if people agree to like a real R&D process, like things are gonna fail, and in a
100%.
way, if it doesn't fail, you end up with a question mark because you may not be 100% sure of how you got it right.
No doubt.
If it just works.
Oh, you're right.
And so, like, sliding in after some of that R&D was done and at the end of the day was probably good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, hindsight, you get the benefit of that.
No
a lot
doubt.
of people can go, oh, I could have told you that.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you weren't around.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to remember that about myself as well.
Sure.
But so now, like, we still have access to those same guys.
Yep.
And, like, they'll remember you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And props to you guys. You guys are always respectful.
Yeah,
even though, very clearly, some of those guys were unfamiliar with the weight room.
No doubt.
Right? Like, I remember having to pull somebody back before they got blasted by a bar. I bet you had to do the same thing.
Yeah, there was times where it was like...
But that respect is still there.
Yeah, no,
right?
Yeah, it was good. And again, it took a while before we could even, think at Dobson even like showing him the stuff. It's like, all right, let's make sure this thing
Well,
is
for
rolling.
sure.
This thing is rolling. This thing is rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was.
There's
again,
only so many mistakes you want to show.
absolutely. So yeah, it was just a learning curve for both. And once we got that, like I said, that communication piece of what we're looking for, what they're looking for, and it was great. It was awesome, and
That's cool.
so it just became something that we used every day.
Nice.
And it was so very beneficial for us at the time.
Would you do it again?
Oh, 100%.
No, I'm not asking you to do it again.
No, right. No, it was
At least
awesome.
not now.
Absolutely, it was awesome. It was a good experience. And again, I was so young in the profession still. So now I would have a broader base of just stuff
Sure.
I'd want to see and stuff I'd want to do. And it's so that's been that's where I think it'd be fun to do that again. Because like now knowing what I know now, it's like okay,
Well, having gone through it
hey,
once.
what about this?
I do wonder, like, obviously, sports tech is a thing.
Yeah.
There's sort of this industry.
Sure.
Right. People have weird ideas about it,
Yep.
but it is a thing.
It is.
And so, like, do you have a sense of where you see things going next, or like improvements? Like, what would you like to see tackled?
Yeah,
And that has nothing to do with Elite Form. So, like, I'm just curious about what you think.
No, I know.
is next.
I think the thing is, I think the things that we think are so new that people have been doing for so long, like just with like some of the Catapult stuff, right? Like you look at the Catapult technology, right? Like things that like people are now like, figuring out, oh, this is good, this is bad. People, overseas have been doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they've been doing that. So like, I think people nowadays have a really good handle on, when it comes to recovery and technology of what to do. Because recovery, right? That's a big thing right now, right? Recovery within the athlete, right? Like how athletes recover, right? Like, I hear Brad Schmidt's podcast, and he went into a whole thing of like, how he monitors his athletes. So, it's interesting because I think people have a good handle on that now. So now I almost feel like it's shifting back to like, you know what, we can recover the athlete, but especially what we do at the football strength coach, there's a certain way we got to work. There's certain things we have to do for the athletes to withstand the punishment of the game, right? Because you look at right now, the biggest thing right now I think we need to tackle that probably, and I think it's cross country, is return to play, soft tissue injuries, right? Every school deals with them a little bit, right? Like, everybody. I mean, you call cross country and it's soft tissue. So getting a better handle on some of that stuff to keep your best players out on the field longer, I think is where it's kind of headed next, right? And people are now really trying to dial in on that and figure out like what is the best ways to with using Catapult and all the resources you have at a university of trying to keep our athletes as healthy as we can for as long as we can. But I think with that comes a certain degree of how you have to train. And I think most strength coaches agree you have to train hard, and you have to push the athlete and take them where they can go and develop them and get them to a certain point where they can withstand whatever they're asked to do out on the field of play. And so that's kind of where I see it going next. And that's where it's been heading there for a while. But that's the biggest thing right now. So, in my opinion.
Well, we're only asking your opinion.
Yeah.
That's all good.
No doubt.
That's all good. Are there any particular like ways of addressing soft tissue injuries that like you want to dig in more into, or you think is kind of going down a good path? Like, so that's outside of my area of expertise.
I think it's going down a path, especially like when you look at like some of the Catapult stuff and like velocities, especially at our sport. Like you look at like high velocity, sports like football, right? Like guys have to sprint, like especially your skill guys, right? I think most coaches now have a good handle on like how much exposure they have to sprinting, all right? What thresholds you have to hit to keep your guys healthy, all right, for as long as you can, and then how often you have to hit those thresholds to make them withstand the season. So I think it's headed down a good path now, as far as like with max velocity train, all that stuff, and Catapult, and with all the other technologies out there. And I know they're not the only one, but they have done a great job.
That's what you're familiar with.
Right, that's what I'm familiar with. They've done a great job of and people have done a great job of utilizing Catapult to really help each athlete kind of maximize what they can and targeting certain zones of speeds or whatever it may be to help keep them healthy for as long as you can. So I think coaches are now starting to get a better handle on it.
Gotcha. And is that do you personally review that data?
I don't personally. We have a guy on staff that does that. John Ferranto, he kind of handles all the Catapult data. He downloads it all and then gives it to Coach Lou and then takes it to the coaches and they look at it from there. But yeah, I don't personally handle that data. Just curious. Yeah, no. So
that makes sense.
Yep,
that makes sense.
I think it's I think we're headed down the right path. Again, just keeping your athletes as healthy as long as we can, and I think that's what everybody's goal is. And
sure.
So,
you're always walking that edge, right? Of
always
improving performance.
Always,
and health.
Yeah, and you got to keep your athletes strong, and you got to keep them, mobile. All the stuff that goes into to performance, right? You got to consider all those things, and I think strength coaches are to the point, where they're knowledgeable enough of all the stuff out there and utilizing it the way that it should be utilized.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, man.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense. So, swinging to something else.
Yeah, perfect.
Are you still getting shit for being on the CNN thing with us?
Not anymore. That thing's kind of come and gone. I did a little bit initially.
Well, it's not really gone.
Right.
YouTube exists.
You can access
We've
it,
got that shit out there.
But yeah, nobody really. I don't think anybody's really sent me that video in the last, whatever 5 years or whatever it's been since then. So yeah,
it has been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while now. I mean, probably 2015.
Wasn't it just at the last CSCCA though, where we were talking and someone flipped you a hard time about that?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
They probably just have that card in their back pocket.
I'm sure always. Yeah, people always keep stuff. But yeah, I think it's been good. So
that's hysterical.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. That was a good day.
It was a good day.
I had fun. That was fun.
Well, and you had Coy Wire.
He was awesome.
Who, was in the NFL.
Yeah, he was.
Right?
Yeah, good athlete.
Solid season.
Yeah.
Or solid season. Solid career in the NFL as well.
Yeah,
so.
he's a good-looking dude. He put together.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew.
It wasn't like...
No, yeah, he just out there.
Like, we've occasionally had, more local news, or even ESPN talk to us about our stuff, and it's sort of like, well... that's where... This is one reason, when someone, says they're a meathead or a knucklehead, I'm like, well, not really.
Right.
Because people don't know.
Right.
So you start explaining it.
Yep.
No one has any idea. Coy knew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he understood that completely.
I enjoyed just sitting back and letting you guys go. I didn't have to say anything.
The competition piece really came out, which was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So
he
got into it.
That was fun, man. That was awesome.
So it really did remind me of just when guys light up working out. Yeah. So instead of being a show,
sure,
or CNN piece, whatever. So
yeah, it just was natural. Time. Yeah, it was we were just going, we were talking,
start laughing,
talk
a little smack.
Other,
yeah, absolutely.
It was good.
By the way, you can feel free to cuss on the podcast.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Talking junk.
I'm trying.
Who says that?
Yeah,
I've already cussed 3 times.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All good. You have to be more professional than me. Maybe.
I try. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I let it fly on the floor every now and then. So. I'm not always.
Well, it's another case where you've got to pick your spots.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Drop an F-bomb all the time.
Yeah.
It loses its leverage.
Absolutely.
In the right moment.
Yep.
In the right moment.
It can be very effective.
Yeah, exactly. So what else should we talk about?
Man, I don't know. I think this has been a very good discussion.
You sound so formal.
No, it's been a great, it's been good. I don't really have anything I'm too passionate about, man. I just trying to do good things out there, man. I'm trying to, add value to the profession. That's where I think that there's a lot. You can get in. You can be categorized a couple different ways, and I want to be a guy that's categorized as adding to the profession and trying to do good things and really mainly my main focus is do right by the athletes.
Coach Z and I were just talking about that.
And that's ultimately, man, when I get in this thing, when I got in this profession, this is what I got into it about. That's what I got it for. I enjoy working with the kids. I enjoy working with the athletes. I enjoy seeing young men become grown men in the weight room in the physical sense and just the emotional sense. I love being able to be just a small piece of something they can achieve. you know, and you know, again, I will never ever take credit for an athlete's success because I'm not doing the work. You know, sure, maybe providing the blueprint a little bit,
Right.
but at the end of the day, they got to show up every day and put in the effort, put in the work, and
Well, that line
get
about
it
it
done.
takes a village.
yes,
Like,
yeah, that is a Division I football program, right? Like it takes a ton of guys and people to help guide these guys in the right direction. You know what I mean? And I've been very blessed to work with great athletes and good players and just good dudes and, you know, guys that are going to be great fathers and great businessmen and guys that you probably go have about 3 or 4, 10 beers with.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, I've been lucky, man. I've worked with some just good people, good kids. And, you know, I just want to continue to add it to that and hopefully continue to do good things out there. And
Well, Coach Z was kind of making that point. Jim Selinsky.
yeah, he's awesome, man.
Olympic side.
Coach
right?
Z's awesome, man. He's my
So
guy.
we were over chatting, and you know, he was basically talking through like just being in a university environment and trying to push for things that he knows will be better for the athletes.
Right.
And you could tell he would kind of think about things and be like, "Am I pushing too hard?"
Yep.
Right. And at the end of the day, his default was, if I've got the student athletes' best interests in mind, I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
So as a default, if I'm doing that, like the rest can kind of a little bit fall by the wayside,
Absolutely.
right? Because you know you're like the intent is good,
Yes.
and you're going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And he's got a little bit of that workman-like, work pale attitude, right?
Absolutely.
I'm clocking in, I'm clocking out, and I'm banging.
Yep.
You know, and he'll make fun of himself for his age or whatever
100%.
else, but the passion is obviously still there. So
Obviously, and and I think, you know, the majority of guys that I know at least that tell you this part of the reason why they do it, you know, is for these kids, you know, and again, doing right by the athlete, right? Have their best interest in heart. And if you, like you said, if you do those things with the athlete's best interest in mind,
yeah,
you can live with yourself.
oh for sure.
So whatever that may be, doesn't matter. But so, you know, and yeah, it's been, again, I've been lucky, man. I've been blessed. All those things, all those cliche things people say, I've been fortunate to be
Sometimes
around.
people say cliches because they're true. That's like
Sure.
that's why they become cliches.
Absolutely, you're right about that. Yeah, but no, I mean, I really am lucky, and it's been such an amazing experience, and just everything I've learned at these two places. You know, just from a professional standpoint, like this job is more about learning how to be, you know, better at my craft, right? Being how to be working, you know, working with the athletes better, working with the coaches better, right? Like when I was in Nebraska, I was just trying to work hard, you know, and whatever. Like I was just going and not, you know,
You don't know what you don't know.
Trying to figure out, you know, the best way. I want the players to like me. Right? That was like my biggest thing. And now it's like, okay, I want the players to like me, but you know, I also know there's a standard that needs to be met, and they need to do that first before they like me. And then on top of like dealing with coaches, which I've had the opportunity to do that, you know, talk with coaches on, you know, just to figure out whatever, like day-to-day operation stuff. That's kind of been my next path here, which has been awesome, learning that and just kind of how to deal with coaches on that level. So to fulfill my goal of being a head strength coach, I will have that experience of dealing with coaches and you know, other people in the building. So
makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Do you feel like some of that is the old player in you coming out? Like
Probably.
I've asked a few people that, and I think some of that's maybe because I feel a little bit of that way myself.
Yeah, sure.
Like, obviously, I'm not working with athletes every day,
Right.
And I was just telling Coach Z this. Like, that's probably the one thing about what we do. I always feel like,
Right.
Like I wish I could get in there every day somehow.
Absolutely.
So then, you know, when we're doing the next thing we're doing, whatever it is,
right?
The triphasic stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like I always start off by just lifting. Like how is it going to appear on that screen?
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Because we kind of have to knucklehead proof it.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
No one's trying to make
the
kid at the rack a kinesiologist.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if it's the eccentric needs to be 5 seconds.
Right.
What's the best, cleanest way to like, display that?
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
And then it builds out from there.
Yep.
And so like I'm constantly like, hey, you're not an athlete.
Right.
Yet it kind of helps to think that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think all of us kind of get in this profession as a way also to stay connected to what we love to do, right? What we love to do when we came up, right? Like I love to play football. So to be around sports and, you know, the game that
Right.
that I played. Yeah, I think that's always, that never leaves you, right? Like, every fall, it's still like that little bit of itch. Like, man, what if I just one more time, like, and now.
Do you guys ever participate in any drills?
No, we don't, and that's probably a good thing. If I think after those thoughts and logic would kick in, and I'm not 20 years old anymore, and so, but just that as an athlete, that never really leaves you. That feeling of like, man, it's fall, it's the grass, and that's a real thing. Like here, Coach, I know a lot of people go on turf now these days. Coach Schmidt, we practice on grass. He loves practicing on the grass. So we go over the rec fields for camp, and it's all grass over there. So the smell of the grass, right? They've talked about the smell of the turf and the mornings.
This is a stupid question. What's the field in the stadium?
It's field turf.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So we actually go on grass as much as we can here. Coach really likes the grass. So so every fall that's still always in you a little bit, right? And then logic kicks in pretty quick, and you're like, yeah, I'm not 20, and if I went through one day of fall camp, I wouldn't walk for a week.
Well, one of the reasons I asked is the Ohio State guys.
Okay.
Some of those guys will do. I was talking with Niko at Ohio State about this. Shout out Niko. But there's this drill, and it was my favorite drill way back when, right? And it's where you've got 2 down linemen.
Yep.
And then like an LB and a running back.
Oh yeah.
And
Oklahoma drill, right? It's like the Oklahoma drill.
Yeah, we didn't call it that, but
yeah, so like whatever.
Let's just go. Yeah. So it's been bugging me. I can't remember what we called it back in the day, but yeah. So Oklahoma drill, and I just love that drill.
Oh yeah.
And so some of their staff will participate in that, and I'm pretty sure Niko did.
No way.
Just they had like a hype video,
sure,
and they showed it, and this is how dumb I am, like 53.
Sure.
And I was like, that'd be fun.
No thing.
I'd be broken.
No way.
But
especially some of those guys. I mean,
well, yeah, I don't even mean it.
And those guys everywhere, right? Like we got big guys here and big guys everywhere. I have no desire. I have no desire to get involved in the Oklahoma drill. Just so people out there are listening.
Do you have fond memories of the Oklahoma
drill?
drill?
Yeah, man.
I guess it could be a thing
of
really
both,
like
right? Like of getting your butt kicked and kicking somebody's butt. And like one of my favorite drills we did, I think I was like in sophomore in high school. It's called the yak drill, yards after contact. So you get the ball on like the 5, and there's an often, it's like 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And going against the defender, get the ball, and you got to get to the end zone. And either they're going to tackle you or you're going to get to the end zone. That was a fun drill.
Who wants it more?
Who wants it more? Who wants to get to the end zone more? Who wants to stop him more? So I always enjoyed that drill, and then, there's a lot of them. Bull in the ring where you're in the hoops and you got to try to force the guy out of the ring. And, there's a bunch of those good combat drills that we used to do back in the day. But anymore, man, my body is happy and healthy and I feel good.
Sure,
now. So,
sure. No, I'm with you.
If I ever got back into that.
Yeah, it's more of that, like the memory of it.
Yeah.
Like still kind of like you're talking about walking out on the grass.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
There's a few things like that.
Yeah, man.
That as old as I am.
Never going to leave you. It's going to always be there.
Kind of gets me excited.
Always going to be there, man. And now it's more about watching these kids, achieve their goals. And obviously, most of them want to go to the NFL. So, if they have those aspirations, helping them, guiding them along the path of how to go about that. And, obviously having the experience of working with some draft picks and guys that have played at a high level in the NFL, hey, well, certain kids, you got to say, hey,
just expand the village.
You got to change a little bit of how you're going about your business, if you want to play at that level. Cause scouts do talk to us. So, and we do tell them the truth. We don't lie to the scouts. So, so there's, that's kind of what I've made it about now, and whatever goal they want to reach, whether it's just being stronger, more flexible, just whatever. Those are things that I enjoy doing now, and helping these kids try to reach their goals and trying to teach them the best ways to go about that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, man.
Should we sign off?
We should. We can. I'm good. It's been awesome, man. This has been great. Thank you very much. Of course, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for listening. As with most podcasts, you can find us on Spotify, Apple. Probably the closest point is eliteform.com/podcast. Appreciate everybody listening. And thanks so much. This thing's continuing to grow, and always surprised at how many people seem to enjoy giving this a listen. So, again, thank you very much.